So we've been speaking a lot about a possible cabinet reshuffle that is on the cards. When Paul Mashatile was sworn in as a member of parliament, it was widely expected that this would pave the way for him to become the deputy president of the republic. You'll remember that David Mabuza made it known at his brother's funeral that he has handed in his resignation to the president. The president replying no later than that to say, please hang 10 a little bit as we sort some issues out in the background. So what to read in between those lines, if anything at all? We're now joined by journalist Sam Mkokeli, who wrote an opinion piece on what may possibly be happening in the background. Sam, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Maybe let's start with Paul Mashatile, the man, the legend. Who is he?
Thanks for the opportunity. Paul Mashatile is one of those enigmas we have in our politics. Really hard to nail down who he really is, and that actually perhaps is an advantage for him. He's a guy born 61 years ago in Pretoria. His parents moved to Alexandra, where he started becoming active in politics, youth politics. One of the key regional organizers of the formation of the UDF, and he became one of the leading figures in the 1990s in the Eastern Transvaal. Then he just grew up through the democratic era, became provincial chairman of the ANC in the 2000s, and also became finance MEC at some stage until around about 2010 when he moved to the national government, initially as the Arts and Culture Deputy Minister, later on a minister. So he's one of those guys that were not well established when South Africa got a 1994 democracy. So they become the next layer of our politicians that we've seen literally grow in front of our eyes in the democratic era.
Let's talk about that time when he was made the Deputy Arts and Culture Minister. Just remind our viewers of what happened with Jacob Zuma at the helm at the time. He is somebody that some sectors of society, Paul Mashatile, that is, suggest he moves in quite a stealth manner, like a submarine, but he is quite a force to be reckoned with in the political space.
A very cunning figure, very brave at the same time. People are spoke to and saying he doesn't fear making his views known or taking tough decisions. Remember when the ANC had to remove Jacob Zuma just after the election of Cyril Ramaphosa as ANC president, Mashatile was one of those who actively took the dagger and put it in Jacob Zuma's back. He made a public announcement in Cape Town a couple of days before the ANC took the decision that Jacob Zuma had to go, and he was one of the people who physically delivered the message to Zuma and saying the ANC has taken a decision that it's time for you to go. But that bit of history might make him look heroic in the eyes of some, but others who are closer to President Ramaphosa will say, you've got to be very careful with somebody like this. He's very ambitious, so choose your next cabinet members very carefully. But also there's a bit of a controversy around Mr. Mashatile. People say he belongs to a group of the so-called Alex Mafia, a group of politicians and business people who get state contracts through proximity to politicians. He denies that he's part of this group or that he even knows of its existence. Back in the days, there was a bit of a controversy at the same time when he was finance MEC, where he spent some money, close to 100,000 rands on a lunch with officers in his government office following tabling of a budget. So that was seemed to be very exorbitant. So people in the Ramaphosa faction are saying you're going to be very worried about the guy you're bringing on close to him. But at the same time, Mr. Mashatile has demonstrated a strong popularity by becoming the ANC deputy president without active support from Mr. Ramaphosa, but also rejection by the Ramaphosa faction. So that he could become deputy president without support of that faction, which was the dominant faction, tells you about how popular he is, but also his cunning nature, the ability to use various sections within the ANC support base to get votes for himself. So he becomes a very forceful figure in our politics. You can see that even if there is a resistance initially in him becoming deputy president, Mr. Ramaphosa has to consider what the fallout could be and what the consequences of that fallout would be.
And that's just it. Let's expand on it and play out a couple of scenarios. If you were looking to look rather into your crystal ball. With that context that you have just given, and also saying that he ascended to the deputy president position of the ANC without the official endorsement or public endorsement of the CEO of the party, he still emerged victorious. What is the likelihood, or what is likely to happen should he not be appointed deputy president of the republic?
ANC has to campaign for the 2024 elections. It got 57% last time, and in the national and in the local elections following the national elections, we've seen the ANC dropping. So the indication that the ANC will struggle to be close onto the 50% mark. So it's important for Mr. Ramaphosa to demonstrate unity within the party. So if he doesn't take Mr. Mashatile on at the government level as his deputy president, it's going to be it's going to encourage speculation that there's a strong rift between him and Mr. Mashatile, or between various factions in the ANC. So it's going to be difficult to campaign based on unity going into the 2024 election. So somebody else will argue that Mr. Ramaphosa does not have to appoint Mr. Mashatile as his deputy. Fine, that he doesn't have to appoint him. There's nothing in the ANC constitution or anywhere that says that Mr. Mashatile must become a deputy president. But we know how politics works and how the ANC has approached this matter in the past. Mr. Mashatile is available, is an MP, is ready for senior deployment. We also know that the current deputy president, David Mabuza, no longer wants in that position. He said at a funeral last month that he is stepping down so that Mr. Mashatile could become a deputy president. So in terms of real politics, never mind that we don't have a rule or a clause in the constitution or a resolution that forces this matter, but we can see in terms of real politics that there is this wide expectation that Mr. Mashatile will become the deputy president. So if Mr. Ramaphosa doesn't do it, and he delays it further, then he ends up taking on more water when the ship needs to be moving faster and in a very seamless way into that election. So the media will carry on writing every day about the Mashatile issue, and it might just detract from the message the ANC will want to deliver to the electorate.
Yeah, Sam, you spoke of Cyril Ramaphosa's camp being wary of Paul Mashatile and him ascending to the deputy president position of the republic because of what they say is his past, allegedly. Could it be also, because we also have the Phala matter that is on the table. So when they speak of somebody that he can trust, is it somebody he can trust or control?
Yeah, that's a very important issue you're raising there to do. You'll remember last year when Mr. Ramaphosa signaled to people close to him that he wanted to resign, the people who advised him to stay on were your Gwede Mantashes, Mudliki Ngubeles, Godongwanas, Franz Baleni, and James Motlatsi. So you don't get Paul Mashatile's name coming up as somebody who actively persuaded the president to stay on. So the people closer to the president will start thinking, is this the kind of guy you want to go to war with? If this Phala matter comes up again and we're in trouble, what is Mashatile going to say? Can we really trust that he will protect you? So would he protect Ramaphosa? I don't know. He's a calculating politician. He will look at the issues in front of him at the time. But if you are very close to Ramaphosa and you have Mashatile who you didn't want to become the deputy president, there's a chance that you can influence the conversation. Obviously, you want to say, no, Mr. President, this is not somebody you can trust. You won't be able to turn your back on this guy. You won't be able to sleep peacefully knowing that you've got an ally in him. That might just be one of the considerations within the Ramaphosa faction.
Thank you very much to Sam Mkokeli.